We'll get some rice from Panda Express, a whole tray of rice with the baked chicken.
Today? I mean, you can have it. You ready? We on. Showtime. Welcome to the Innermost Podcast, where we explore, acknowledge, set right, and show gratitude for our got a pain in my neck, deepest, most private, inward thoughts, emotions, and experiences. As always, you can write to the show anonymously and share your thoughts, experiences, and your stories at the Innermost Podcast at gmail.com. I'm your host, K-Joy, and I am happy to be here today with my baby daddy and husband. Does that irritate you?
Not really.
It used to. Huh?
It used to, yeah.
It used to. Why not anymore? Yeah, it's like whatever.
We veterans in the game.
Veterans. All right, it is June the 7th, 2025, Saturday morning. It's summer break. Weather's looking like 96 degrees today. Good morning, babe.
Good morning.
How's your morning going? What time is it right now? 9:25. I should just be getting up out of bed. You know you woke me up at about 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I want to go to the gym.
I went with you.
What kind of work did you do?
I worked my mind. I went to the gym. It was, I feel like with age, I'm changing a lot. And it's just, things are starting to become annoying in the gym. Like when we walked in and that dude was just like, "Arr, arr." It's just like, I was annoyed, but I don't know. I said, I did. I said,
when you left, I got this They Not Like Us shirt on.
Uh-huh.
And there was these two meatheads, two buff meatheads that were like, I like that shirt. And I was like, yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get that I probably should, power through and focus. You are right though. It was a lot easier when I had like my AirPods before I dropped them down the water.
So, we need to invest in some more.
But I enjoyed sitting in the massage chair while you worked out. Anyway, it was a tough loss last night for the Dodgers versus the Cardinals.
They'll bounce back.
I lost $25. Following my brother-in-law on the bet, we was rallying. We thought they would come back, but it's hard in baseball, huh? When the pitcher is no good.
Yeah, that's what the team is built around, pitching.
So tell me, what are you looking forward to during this sports season, fall? I know we're in NBA Finals. Actually, no, the game is tomorrow. NBA Finals game's tomorrow. But what are you looking forward to just with, all the things surrounding sports right now?
Well, I'm looking forward to anything that could caress my mind and, with everything that I got going on in life, I'm just looking forward to college football. I'm looking forward to the NFL. I'm looking forward to the release of College Football 26.
Mm-hmm.
They brought back College Football 25 last year. That was the first time in almost over a decade that they brought back out a college sports game.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to something that could give me an outlet, from just work, studies, trading. So my psychology is right? Yeah, you always need those outlets. So I'm looking for anything to stimulate my psychology, so I don't over engineer or over focus on what my goals are. Because sometimes when you focus too much on what you're trying to do,
yeah,
you start to over engineer. And what I mean by that is you start to basically focus too much on it, mm-hmm. and you start to uh, start to get a little delusional and start seeing discrepancies where there aren't any discrepancies. And
is that, would you consider that like fatigue?
Yeah.
Like mental fatigue?
Like I always feel, I love to trade, and so when I'm trading, I'm buying into certain investments and positions in these investments, and if I stare at it all day and I don't have any outlets, then I'll prematurely make an exit out of those positions, taking either a small gain or a big loss. And same thing with just over focusing. Sometimes I feel like my CFP studies, whenever I'm too overly focused on it, I tend to look for problems where there ain't problems. And I noticed that like in every test that I've passed, I've always gave myself one day off. I didn't even look at any material, just gave myself a day off. But I'm just excited. I don't want to digress. Just excited about just some of the outlets. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't really watch basketball as much as I do baseball and football. But I'm more none of my kids are playing football, but I still love to watch football. That's just, if I could do a career, if I could start over do a career, I'd be coaching or something.
I feel like when you, and maybe just only people who like actually are into sports and stuff can relate to this, but I feel like when you are a sports fan and you watch sports, that it becomes like a need, like a seasonal. It's kind of like, how people look forward to the holidays and they're like, oh, I can't, like, I'm excited that summer is coming, I'm excited that fall is coming, it's the season for the holidays. When you're a sports fan, all of those seasons are kind of tied into it. Like, when I always look forward, like right now, we just started spring a while ago and baseball and all that, and I look forward to it because I felt like, all right, we're about to go into summer. It's like outside time, you get to enjoy it. But as it goes on, I can see myself starting to look forward to fall. And whenever I think of fall, I think of like football season, chilling, watching the games together. So it's interesting that you would say, you're looking forward to that. I find it interesting, this just new, I don't know, it's like a changing world that we live in with this NIL and college students, getting paid. And I know it's kind of like beating a dead horse because so many people are talking about it, but I saw an article that came up with this young sister. I can't even think of her name right now, but she's a softball player at Texas Tech, and she was signed for a 7-figure like deal. I think it's cool. At first I didn't really understand it, but for those sports that might not get as much like professional opportunity, I think it's really cool for these college players to be like at their prime and have an opportunity to make some money that they can invest in.
Her name is Nigeri Kennedy.
Okay, there you go. And I just think it's cool, but it makes me think, and I know I kind of mentioned this to you last night, I feel like there's a pro and con to everything. And it's like you have a lot of these young athletic players, starting to go into this field because they got an opportunity to make a lot of money, which is positive because nowadays you have so many people focus on, I want to be an influencer, I want to be this, that, or the other, but now they could put more professionalism behind sports. Too. And what's crazy to me is they actually have these new like majors like sports psychology, where it's like the evolution of the mind. And I guess that kind of came up when you were talking about like having an outlet and not focusing too much on anything, because when you focus too much on something, you start to find a problem. That goes back to like the importance of like balancing your psychology in all things. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I just think it's incredible. I think that as technology evolves, even though we feel like, times have changed so much since like the 90s, or we call them like the good old days, it's forcing us to have a heightened level of intelligence. You got AI, you got all this other stuff, but it's forcing the human being to heighten their psychology and their intelligence, because now you got to come up to another level of performance in everything.
Yeah. No, going back to the Texas Tech,
Yeah.
the NIL, from a financial advisor lens. I think that is great that a lot of these young athletes are able to make the amount of money that they're making. They're able to get infused with a big amount of money that they probably never had in their whole family dynamic. You know, they probably breaking generational curses of poverty, you know, getting some of these deals, you know. But I think that, because you mentioned that, you know, there's pros and cons and stuff like that. But I think that, you know, there needs to be more education now around these athletes when it comes to, you know, the money that they're getting. They need to be more financially educated on, you know, because the sad thing is that what is she getting right now? She's getting
it just says
she's getting $1.2 million.
Oh,
the sad thing is, I think the biggest con is that just the this lifestyle creep from that could arise for this young lady.
What about maturity too, though?
And maturity, right? And so, you know, that $1.2 million, understanding that, you know, if you spend it, you know, there's tax implications, right? Understanding, you know, the tax implications when it comes to these type of deals. I'm almost thinking that, do these NIL players, do they have agents that help them?
Right.
Right? Which, you know, if that's an agent helping them, then that's a like 10% fee, right? On the asset. And then not to mention taxes, not to mention if they're not being mentored in that area,
right?
They could be misled into thinking that they can just spend. You know, those $100 a day spending habits can turn into $1,000 a day or $2,000 a day. And so I just feel like there should be more advisors surrounding, you know, being able to educate, you know, in the arena of NIL.
So that's
all sports, even high school. There's a school in Georgia. I mean, there's the whole state of Georgia now are being allowed to. The high school athletes are being allowed to accept NIL deals in high school. So I almost think that there's a niche market for being able to educate and go into some of these schools, educating them on these NIL deals of how to deal with their money. Because like I said, you know, taxes could be a big bitch.
Right.
And, you know, before you know it, you could be broke. And I think that $1.2 million for a 19 and 20-year-old, that's life-changing money, because that's money that could easily quadruple into $10 million nest egg, you know, at that age, you know?
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned the term market, because what was coming to my mind is back to the pros and cons thing. You know, yes, those are some of the concerns, but like you said, that opens up a whole nother need for business, right? Yeah. Like you said, to target the younger people. Yeah. Some of the questions that came to my mind, though, when you were saying that is a few things. Will this start to now force some of these parents who try to live vicariously through their children, will they now start to push them beyond their limits? You know, they're already saying that you have younger and younger baseball pitchers, athletes who are getting surgery, the Tommy John surgeries, and that's what it's called, right? Yeah. Getting surgeries at a younger age, because you have this a market for these athletes, and these parents are pushing them hard. Yeah. But now they got something to push for, because these kids don't have the maturity level. Well, at our age, we're able to set boundaries, right? So it's like you love your family, but you also know, okay, there's a boundary. You set boundaries when you get a certain age with what, you know, where your family lies in that. They're not running your financial business, this and another thing. But if you're dealing with a kid getting this kind of money, what if they have parents that aren't any good? You know what I mean? Hopefully they have decent parents, but that's not going to be the case all the time. And then the other question would be, are they going to start redlining this like they do everything else? Are they going to start, you know, African Americans, we know to be really good athletes in certain, but now there's money involved. Are they going to start redlining certain things in the sport? Like, what are your thoughts?
I don't think so. I don't think they will ever redline like athletics amongst blacks because that's the field that they want us to be in. Because everything else is kind of guardrail, like any other industry, lawyer, attorney, engineers, and stuff. So this is where they want us.
So what are the controls that's going to come up then?
What you mean by controls?
Well, I mean, like, there's always these rules that come up. Like, we've seen this in the NFL where it's like, you can't dance, you can't.
Well, no, there will be. Now, what you say there, that's pretty key. I think there will be some what you call red lines.
Right.
It'll be like, okay, well, there, just kind of like the credit system. There'll be like, they'll back the line up and say, okay, in order to be eligible, for an athlete to be eligible, A, B, and C has to happen. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt that will happen.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think that, I don't think this will ever be redline because this is the field that we're in. This is the, majority of black wealth comes from entertainment and sports. By design,
sadly.
And so going back to these young kids, I mean, I think that, you're speaking about like young kids just stepping in before they even get a real job to know what it is to work at 8 to 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
They might have worked a part-time job at McDonald's for 4 hours or maybe 16 hours a week, right? But
yeah,
I think that the way I'll educate these young folks, the way I'll educate even athletes, in the NFL, is that they need to understand the normal tendencies of life.
Speak on that. What do you mean by that?
So, for instance, we have a lower class, we have a middle class, we have an upper class.
Okay.
They need to understand what is the median range for middle class income, right? What is the median range for upper class income?
Or even the tax.
Yeah, to have a grasp on that, right? Mm-hmm. Look at jobs, like they need to know, okay, let's benchmark off of let's say engineer. How much is an engineer bringing in per year on a median? Like probably anywhere from $150,000 to $250,000 a year. Mm-hmm. In society, that's great. That's good money. That's enough money to have a home. That's enough money to put money away for your children in a 529 plan. That's enough money to be able to contribute into a 401k or whatever. That's enough money to just, to start actually accumulating, right? $150,000 to $250,000, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that there's no real understanding of how life really works, because if you're skipping that normal life tendency of understanding, you jumping right into millions and millions of dollars, you have a false sense of reality. Mm-hmm. Right? But if it's a person who actually understand, like, okay, $100,000 is a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. My mom and dad together combined in our house only made $60,000. They made it work, but $100,000. I always heard my parents say they wish they had a 6-figure salary. Mm-hmm. Well, somebody educated on that level will say, okay, well, I got $2 million. If I stick this into like an ETF or a mutual fund, income-based mutual fund that's going to generate about 5%, 6% per year, hey, that's $100,000 right there, right? Mm-hmm. So having an understanding of what is real in life and society, will having an understanding of that, like, hey, yeah, $2 million, that's a lot of money, but hey, man, like some people are able to afford things living off of $100,000 and $150,000, $200,000. That's a lot of money.
Do you feel like that knowledge lacks a lot with this generation?
Yeah.
The reality, because you have so much influence of, they see these images of people with all these things and they think it's real.
Yeah.
How do you think that affects them? Because you're saying, everything that you're saying, I understand with, like, they need to get an understanding of life.
How life works.
But what would it take to get them to understand that? Or would they even be interested? Or do they have to learn by trial and error, you think?
Well, no, they'll just have to understand. They'll just have to understand, like, okay, what did your parents raise you off of? How do you assess your lifestyle and growing up in that household? Was your parents able to afford you a pair of Jordans or whatever you wanted to go to school with? Right. Ask your parents how much did they live. Okay. If you find out that your parents both had a combined income of $120,000, guess what? Let's figure out. Okay, you get this $2 million contract. Okay. You are single. Like, $120,000 was enough to take care of you and your brothers.
Right.
Okay, so $2 million, you put that in the market, you income-based mutual fund or whatever, you yield 5% on that. That's over $100,000. 6%, that's $100,000.
I think the sad thing about this.
But they'll dig into that capital. They'll start spending the $2 million. Go buy a car. Go buy. I'm not against buying a house now. With that money, but buying a car, buying all this jewelry and all this other stuff, not understanding that you had something that could have generated you some passive income.
But I think the sad thing about this conversation is it's literally cutting into that double-edged sword of like reality, right? Yeah. Like that's a great question for a child to ask. But what if you come to ask that question and realize that so many people, they actually don't have that amount of money, or the parents are not living on that income, and then you end up finding out they don't own anything. Yeah. And they've just been running, spending money to get you them Jordans. Yeah. And maybe the whole time, they never even could afford any of that. Yeah. That's the cold reality. And then, like, how do they change that mindset? You know what I mean? Because I feel like even culturally, like, there's this need to be seen. Yeah. Right? Like, when we go different places, it's like, I don't even know if I feel like getting into that. That's deep.
Bottom line, I think in order for people to understand, they need to benchmark. They need to lower. When they get this money, they need to have a career, like some sort of career benchmark where it's like, okay, I'm in the NFL, I'm getting this NIL deal in softball. How much does a doctor make? How much does a lawyer make? Right. Those are reputable. Those careers have so much credence. They get paid a lot. Look at the annual average salary of those individuals, then tell yourself, okay, if they're making, if these lawyers and doctors and people always get, this huge fanfare because of their careers, okay, I'm in a situation now, like I got this $10 million contract my first year, like Travis Hunter, $10 million. Okay, well, if a doctor is making $250,000, $300,000, what can this $10 million generate for me passively? It can generate more than what a doctor or a lawyer makes.
So my concern is this. All that information that's like priceless information. You know what I mean? Like, for somebody to feed you that information, that is like gold, right? Yeah. Here's my concern. And at their age and their level of maturity and inexperience with relationship, how much weight does knowledge have versus obligation? And what I mean by obligation is when their family members start to put pressure on them that it's their duty to now take care of them, and now you have, instead of taking care of them and investing and looking in the long run, they feel obligated to take care of a whole bunch of other people.
Well, that's almost that's a catch-22, because if you feel the weight of obligation versus the weight of education,
oh, I like the way that's
then you're going to make those I'm gonna call it the above the line deductions to your family, meaning that they get the first part of your nest egg.
Wow.
Right? You get $5 million. You got a $5 million contract. That half of it is going to your family without even paying taxes.
Before even paying taxes and taking care of.
I think it was a football player, the guy, the running back who played for Alabama. I forget his name, but he ended up buying a house and everything for his mom and doing all kinds of stuff for his family. And then by the time he got down to like half the money, he used up half the money, but he didn't know that he had to pay half the money. Like half that money he spent was supposed to be due for taxes.
This is why I'm saying, like, I think it's so important, even as an educator, right? Like, I will stop in the middle of my lesson, and it's necessary, to teach the California State curriculum. You teaching, the math, the standards, and all this stuff. I will stop in the middle of my lesson to teach life skills. Mm-hmm. And I believe, as a parent, as an educator, that there is nothing that beats life skills. You have to teach psychology. You have to teach the world, because like you saying, like, they can run into these situations and then it can all be for naught because of lack of understanding.
And like you said, the weight of obligation to their
obligation
to
their family.
When people are poor, and if you try to educate yourself financially on things, and these poor people are behind
there's a mental block.
They're gonna be like, I don't give a damn. You gonna give me some? I've been supporting you.
Yeah.
I don't give a damn about that.
The
that
pressure
class you're going to try to learn. Who cares about that shit? Like, I need my money.
And they will make you feel like shit to get what they want, only to blow it.
Yeah, it's more weight on obligation, honestly, than it is for education.
Yeah.
But I think that
we got to put more value on education.
These kids need to know right now, though. Like, I really think whether a state gives high schoolers the ability to accept NIL, these kids still need to be educated, whether they get NIL or not.
Yeah.
I wish I could go to my old high school, Jordan or whatever, and educate those kids on money, how it works. You know what I'm saying? And
the fight you would have,
the potential exposure of receiving NIL.
The fight you would have, you might get one that listen. The fight you would have would be the culture. It would be the community. It would be the mindset. It would be the poverty mindset of, no, you got to take care of mama. You got to take care of, you know, and that's tough.
And what I'm saying is easier said than done, okay? Let's be honest.
Of course.
It's very easier said than done because of your exposure in life, you know, the culture, so to speak. You see these lavish cars and you see like, okay, I have an opportunity to be able to be that.
You really have to train your mind and break.
There's 45, 50-year-olds that
still in
like
that
this.
Trap, still in that bullshit.
Still in that shit. Like, I got to wear a chain. I got to, like, you 50-year-old, you know, you still got to wear this lavish chain. And
but that's an act of needing validation. That's crazy. Yeah. But anyway, we're going to segue into a couple of other things. I'm looking at this money line right now. They have the Pacers at plus 400 and OKC, the Oklahoma City Thunder, at minus 575, still playing at home. Now, game one, they had, when I looked at it, I think they had the Pacers at like plus 335 or 375. I called it, right? That they were going to win that first game. I wouldn't say that they're going to win the second game away. The Pacers going to beat Oklahoma the second game away.
I'll take that plus 11, though.
What do you think about the spread?
I like the spread. The plus 11, I'll take Indiana on that plus 11.
Okay. Nice. You know, one thing that I noticed about the Pacers that I feel like gives them, I don't want to say a chance because I don't want to make it seem like they just, so many people just think they're going to get obliterated. But if you watch this team play, they are disciplined. They're not just fouling. You know what I mean? Like, if Oklahoma City beats the Pacers, they're going to have to beat them.
Yeah.
The Pacers not going to help them. They're not going to help them beat them.
Yes.
If that makes sense. They're going to have to really beat them. Nice, clean, and clear. But,
I like it.
All right. So, it's a couple of things I want to get into before we wrap it up. We spent a lot of time on the things we're passionate about, which is community and psychology and finance. And these are just general conversations that we have every day, which is kind of, is it sad? I don't know. This is like our marital conversation. Conversations. It's just who we are, I guess.
It's just who we are.
I do want to mention, okay, so in a segue from what we talked about, you know, just say, for instance, the importance of investing or the importance of seeing the big picture and setting those boundaries early, understanding life in general, is that we are all headed for a decline in our health and in our age. And that's something that we starting to face now as we start to push 40 more and more. Having kids is not as easy for the body anymore. Nope. I've had 2 miscarriages in the last, it's been like 3 years, I think, right now. You could just feel so much that's changing in your body. What are some of the things that you feel that you're starting to feel in your health now at your age that kind of make you have more respect for life and nutrition? And like, what are some of the things that you're starting to feel that kind of make you recognize, like, wow, because like when you're young, right, you can just go.
You take all for granted. Yeah, but on that, you basically when you're young, you take a lot of stuff for granted. But the way I feel now at the age of 38, like I was telling you in the car today when we was driving from Lansing's, I said there's a big difference I felt when I was 36, because remember when I was 36, I lost about 40 pounds. I was like going to the gym, waking up in the morning. Quickly, had a lot of energy, right? Then I had my shoulder incident that happened. That set me back for about 2 years. I could have got back, but I was undisciplined. I started eating cheesecakes and all kinds of stuff, junk food, and just living life, right? Enjoying life, what we say.
Right.
And so now I feel inflammation. That's the difference. I feel a lot of inflammation in my shoulders, my back, my joints.
Your neck?
Yeah, and so
I feel it in my neck.
And it's harder. It gets harder. And so I guess the best antidote for it is just to, have a balanced diet. Like, don't go too far off the end of keto or have a healthy balance, you know what I'm saying, of carbs, fats, proteins, work out anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week if you can, and just try to eat whole food, right? And take your one thing that we don't value. We always put too much emphasis on macronutrients, which is in food. Our micronutrients, we need to take our vitamins, and sometimes we don't need to take supplements that comes from our fruits and veggies.
I think what I'm hearing is there's a mindset change with age. Yeah. When you're young, you're looking for more of that artificial, quick fix, trendy, cliche. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like way of life. But as you start to live and experience life, those experiences and what you really feel, it starts to change your approach, and you do search for balance. Yeah. Because it might be days where you physically, like you said, you feel the inflammation, you just can't get up as fast as you need to. Yeah. It takes me time to get up in the morning. You know what I mean? And you start to feel that with age, and it makes you draw from that balance. And I think that's why I appreciate nature and spirituality so much, because I feel like the older you get with nature and everything, you start to realize how much you need to pull from the things of this earth to make yourself go. Like, does that sound crazy? Yeah. It's like you depending on the water. It was made from dirt. You depend on the water. You depend on the fruits and stuff of the land, and you're not really looking for a superficial fix. Like you said, like protein powders and all that. You're looking for something natural to just like rejuvenate who you are. And it's funny because when I walked out the gym today, before I sat in the massage chair, I was just looking at Glenn Ivy's page for like a long time and just looking at the water, and I'm just like, man, I just need some kind of relaxation. And I feel like that comes a lot like when you're older, and not just older, when you're in the thick of it. Like, we in the thick. We got 3 kids, 16, 10, and 8. Yeah. We working all the time. You know what I mean? And not just working, but also pursuing more within our careers. And it takes a lot from you mentally. There's times where we don't have the time to go to the gym, or you just grab something. You might not have the time to eat healthy, and then you deal with that mentally because you just like, dang, I made a bad choice. I need to be more prepared. I know I deal with that a lot. I'm a very structured.
I'm sitting here while you're talking, I'm listening. I'm structuring my fitness pal right now.
I'm a very structure oriented person, and when those structures fall in place, I feel depressed about it. You know what I mean? And so I've been dealing with that depression because I'm like, the house is not the way I want it. You know, things, and you have to be okay with things falling apart. Yeah. When you get old, Levi, 8 years old, he won't get out the bed. Like, our routine of sex is not the same. Yeah. And even that, when like you're older, it's funny because I was having this thought, and I was like, when you're young, you do sex. You hear what I'm saying? Yeah. When you're young, get this, you do sex. When you are mature, you need it. And what I mean by that is, like, when you mature, you get to this place in life where it's like, I need to slow down, and that becomes a part of your self-care. Yeah. Like, the benefits of it, you know, when I start getting a migraine or headache, I'll be like, listen, Tylenol just ain't gonna get it. Yeah. We gotta slow down, and I need this. Yes. And then there's seasons of it, right? Like, I feel like there are it's so hard with kids. Like, I don't think people really realize. People who are in the thick, they'll meet you and be like, psh, it's tough. It's hard. Yeah. Like, it's hard. Like, it's hard on all aspects. Trying to balance the finances of taking care of them, trying to make decisions on what's more important than the next thing, trying to find yourself in this and take care of your health. It's tough. Yeah. And it's not an easy balance. But I think the thing that never changes is faith. Well, I won't say never changes. My faith is changing. And I can feel the changes in it, and I appreciate it because the Lord proves himself to be true all the time in it, even when I'm like, okay, this don't make sense. I need you to reveal yourself in these areas. But what I mean by that, it's the thing that keeps you solid. It's the thing that keeps the undercurrent from swallowing you whole, even in the midst of all the things in life. So,
yeah.
What do you think? Sex, kids, paying bills?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, those are all. Well, sex takes the back burner on it.
Unfortunately.
When you are a responsible adult, like it's not intentional or anything like that. Everything that we do is unintentional. When you live an adult life, you have to be comfortable with uncertainty because you can never look for like certainty, like, in any situation. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, your bills are probably fixed, I'm not talking about that. But when I talk about like uncertainty, you just never know. It's life is a roller coaster.
Right.
Every day is not the same. Even though you go through the same mundane, things, go to work, pay bills, everything surrounds the kids during certain seasons of the year with dealing with sports. So it's the same thing. We see the same thing on social media where it's like kids are graduating around June, Christmas time, Valentine's Day. It's like the same. It's cycles, right? So, but you have to get used to just uncertainty. Like, especially we've been married for 18 years, and I feel like we both strive for, like, I've been striving for certainty for a long time. You've been striving for certainty for a long time.
It's annoying.
And like sometimes you're like, I wish you would do things this way, or I wish you would do things a certain way, or whatever. But I think we're both starting to learn, like, hey, there's some uncertainty to this dynamic,
It's a hard lesson to learn, though.
Okay, define it.
So, but I think you defined it beautifully, and I'm glad you did. But what I realized and what you were saying is that the frustration is not you or me. Mm-hmm. The frustration is like the playing field right now. And I don't think I've ever heard you say that way. Yeah. I don't know if we ever hit on this in this way before, but it makes a lot of sense. And I think that's why I kept wondering, like, I know there's changes that's going on with me, like, as I get older, and as, we've never had a 16-year-old before. We've never had a 10 or 8-year-old before. We've never had the health issues we have before, the overhead we have before. And I think that when you try to live in certainty, you try to pinpoint what's causing your frustration. And I feel like my frustration had been that before I could identify, right? Like, okay, I need to finish school. I need to do this. I want to take care of the kids in this way. We wanted to purchase a home. But now when you are at the place where we have everything that we want and that we need for this time, right? I mean, there's other things, endeavors that we're working towards. But for the most part, the foundation of what we want is here. I think my frustration, confusion, and depression has been relying on the fact that, like, why do I still feel this frustration? And you just, like, literally, that was, hearing you talk was the awakening for me, is that I need to be uncomfortable with the uncertainty. And I'm not used to that. And it's getting used to that. And that has been really hard for me. But I think it'll get easier now because I realize what it is by hearing you say that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I know that now, things that I feel like I have certain needs that are a lot different now. Like, I have a need for, we communicate a lot. Our communication has mainly been, like, based on how we run our life, how we take care of the kids. All those structures. What I'm learning is my need is changing in community. And you've been used to that from me. Yeah. But now you get this frustration from me because it's like, okay, I've changed the way that I want to communicate without you having to notice. You understand what I mean? Without me serving you notice, like, hey, yeah, that's not working for me anymore because I didn't know that that's what it was. Now it's like, because I feel like, I wouldn't even call it the pressure, the exhaustion, right? I feel the exhaustion and the tiredness from just where we are, the journey that the place we are in this journey. is that now my communication is more like I need it for me and not for the things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I need the deeper, like how I feel, how like the woman in me, the emotional part of me that for so many years I haven't really tend to or pay attention to because my focus was on like building a home, structuring a home, taking care of the kids, this and that. And now I'm in this place where like, nope, like I'm starting to feel like a need more for you in my personal space and not just it being just like kids. And that's a hard change.
Yeah.
And I think that it's kind of unfair to you in a way because we've done things a certain way for so long, and maybe that's just the way of a woman's makeup. Like we change in that way. You know what I mean? Like for you, like for a man, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe your focus is provision. You know what I mean? And as long as all those things are good, you good.
Yeah.
For me, like my mind is ever evolving. Like it's always like moving. And whenever I feel unsettled, I act unsettled. And so I start to look for like, okay, I got to figure out what are the things that keep me settled. You know, like what is it? And when I can't figure out what it is, it drives me. But anyway, that's all I got for all of that stuff.
Yeah, no, this has been an awesome conversation.
It has been an awesome conversation. You want to close it out?
Oh, you got it, girl. You got it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking your valuable time to hang out with me and my boo to address some of the thoughts and opinions that often only reside in the innermost. It has been a wonderful pleasure to host you today. I look forward to receiving your stories, exchanges, and experiences in our community at the Innermost Podcast at gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram at the Innermost Podcast. I hope you find enough motivation today on this Saturday to get you through the week. Take care. Never abandon your innermost thoughts, opinions, and being. God bless.